Wow, it looks like it's been a couple of months since my last script. I've been very busy doing the hard work necessary to advance on this Soika path and decided to discuss some of the things I've learned. As you have been told, the deconstructing process is very difficult and downright painful at times. You need the internal strength of a warrior to be able to maintain the path. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Exiting the First Cognition. I'm Krystal Blake, and I want to thank you for listening today and subscribing to this channel. You need to understand the processes taught to advance yourself are not just a hobby. You have to have a genuine willingness and desire to advance. One needs the stamina and drive to continue on the path that has no end. As with most of us, we begin our path with some expectations to what our path is going to look like. We hear something that makes us feel good and instantly grasp onto it, creating an expectation of what we now think our path should be. Those expectations will disappoint and inhibit your growth, so it is best to recognize them and remove them from your mind. Kat has a great video on that very subject called Expectations versus Realizations, and I recommend you listen to it for further information. As you work on the clearing process and begin to see with more clarity, you realize how much has really held you back. And without the willingness to advance and truly keeping an open mind, you will continue to run in circles, never finding the truth that is presented. Letting go of the illusions that we have been fed was the beginning for me. I've been questioning everything I know and believe. In doing this, I began to see how I'd been manipulated beginning at childhood, if not from birth. For me, it began with our U.S. school system. I had never thought to question historical facts or even how the content of what was being taught was decided. Who chose what was important to learn? Why did I have to learn this information anyway? And why are we taught in this particular fashion? That is a whole other subject in itself. Once I saw and truly understand this as a system of control and effectively removed the blinders, I began to see it in even more areas. Once you begin to look hard and honestly at the world around you, you will begin to see it as the oppressive trap it really is. This continues to be an ongoing process. I look at information and observe and feel. If I have an emotional reaction, I know this may be a work area. Remember, egos assume, perceive, and react, and soikas observe, feel, and know. This is a good way to find areas you need to address. The Hapim habits are so strong and are one of the most important things to address. In Endel's book, Demystifying the Mystical, he has an exercise to shelve the ego. It's not easy, and it may not happen during the first or even second or third attempt, so don't give up. It is greatly worth the effort. With the ego a bit out of the way, I could get a better glimpse at who I really am. I was able to deal with insecurity and fear, along with dumping other emotional baggage using self-talk, which is another subject of great importance. It is addressed in Demystifying the Mystical, as well as more detailed instructions in Endel and Gemma's book, The Second Cognition Toolbox. Self-talk has played a huge and important role in my clearing process. By removing the programs that were controlling and triggering my emotions, I'm able to find true emotional balance. Since the virus no longer living inside me, I am now dealing with the residual habits left behind. One problem is that we do not always see these habits in ourselves. When I see something in another person that really bugs the shit out of me, I look back to see if I am guilty of the same behavior. Many times we are actually doing the same thing. This may be a good way for you to find your residual habits if you do not have someone to help point them out to you. Self-talk helped take me from an insecure, overly emotional woman to an emotionally stable and more self-confident person. I no longer react to the emotional triggers that once ruled my life. You will have emotions, but they will be warranted ones, not caused by an overactive ego. The self-talk in itself will not just magically change you. There is internal work in your thinking patterns that has to be done as well. As has been said before, this is not an easy process, and if you are not willing to genuinely work at it, then don't waste your time on the material. This process is not a hobby or a fad. It is truly life-changing. At least it has been for me. I've gone back and listened to some of the earlier videos and reread some books, and I'm amazed at how much more I understand. I heard the information initially and gained some insight, only to get the full realization later. And I may get even deeper realization the next time I listen and read. As my perceptions change, I comprehend more fully what is contained in the material. I know that my perceptions are always expanding, so returning the information later allows me to glean even more. In the past, I would read a book or watch a video and never return a second time. I have learned that it is hugely beneficial to go back later for review to get further insights. It is so common to look for advice outside of ourselves. Some seek outside assistance from professionals who are suffering from the same HAPIM condition we are. Oh, there are ones that serve as guides, but ultimately you are responsible for yourself. This is a form of escapism and is based on fear. Most people are too afraid to take responsibility for themselves and face the reality that no one is going to save you. To me, it has given me increased strength to know that I have control over me. I am no longer at the mercy of the HAPIM virus, and only the habits are what I have to break. And let me tell you, the habits are a bitch to see and break. This is a process for sure. The subject of distractions is something I learned from experience too. As I said in the beginning, this is not a hobby, and if you let life distract you, that is exactly what it will be, a constant distraction. You will only get out of this what you put into it. Endel and Gemma have given all the tools needed to exit the first cognition. 3D life has so many distractions, and you need to be aware of what is not serving you. I wrote in another script that I had to leave social media for that very reason. The time I spent looking over others' pictures and pages was not helping to advance me. For others, it may be television, YouTube, or too many social engagements. You have to get your priorities straight. Do you want to stay rooted in this first cog cesspool? Because if the answer is no, you need to put your full attention into this. We all have to live here and have life's responsibilities. But when you're not doing them, focus should be on your advancement out of the first cog viper pit. I know it can be very uncomfortable when the distractions are friends and family. You have to make the decision as to what is most important to you and find your balance. I know this isn't easy. I'm going through it too. The excess baggage that some of these relationships bring is not worth it and will stall your growth. I'm not saying that you have to live in a cave or be a hermit, although at times you may actually want to. Dealing with the first cognition bullshit is so tiresome. The more you grow yourself, the more you just want to stay away from it as much as possible. The constant drama is all too fatiguing. This is where detachment comes into play. We all live in the 3D world and have to interact in it. But you do not need to allow it any of your energies. When you detach, you can interact and not allow that world to have a major effect on you personally. Oh, there will be days of frustration, but it doesn't control you. I will give myself as an example. I used to allow my workplace environment to steal my energy. Actually, I was giving it away by allowing others' behaviors to affect me. I would leave exhausted at the end of the day. One needs to gain control by detaching from the situation. This is much harder to do in the home, but not impossible. This is common when you are exiting the first cog and living with people rooted in it. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention is the quieting of the mind. You've heard Gemma and Endel talk about it. I accomplished this several months ago, and I have to tell you, it is great. I've always had that voice in my head chattering incessantly. Early on, when I tried to stay quiet to hear the still, small Soika voice inside, the virus-instilled internal dialogue would yak like crazy. No wonder I couldn't hear my Soika. The thing is, you cannot make this happen. You have to allow it to happen. I was just doing the work, and one day I realized the quiet. It took a few days to get used to it, but I can tell you I would never want to go back to that incessant chattering in my head. Realize that there is not an endpoint to this path. Once in the second cognition, you will just continue further on. There's no final place. It's always expanding. There's no finish line. So you better just be patient and continue doing the work. And you cannot rush this shit, so don't even try. Just be pragmatic about this and do the work necessary. You are in full control of your path. The past year has been a huge year of growth for me, and I wanted to share my personal growth as an encouragement and to show you that this shit really works. You will begin to see things that you were once blinded to. I did not accomplish what I have by sitting around waiting for it to happen. I did the hard work needed. I have and will make mistakes along the way, but hey, that's how we learn, right? I have so much to learn and have only begun to understand the fullness of what I'm experiencing. It is true what has been said, though. Once you come this far, there is no way to go back. And truthfully, you won't want to. I sure hope this serves as some encouragement and motivation to do what you need to do. Only you can make it happen. Thanks again for listening to Exiting the First Cognition and being a subscriber. I'm Krystal Blake. Hope to see you in the second cognition.